This is our first time on the show, so let's give her an official round
First
of
time, but
applause.
not the last.
I hope not.
Yeah, just to make sure you speak directly into the mic. Okay,
You gotta get used to that, Judge.
yeah. So first up the bat, today is September 11th. In 2 days, Tuesday, September 13th, we have the Democratic primary,
Yes.
and we have Judge Nichelle Johnson is running to keep that seat. So
sir.
introduce yourself. And tell
Yes, sir.
everybody about yourself.
Okay, absolutely. So a shout out to everybody out there listening to Black Westchester.
Oh, let me just say,
Yes, sir.
that we're broadcasting Facebook Live. If you go to my page and share it to your page, all your people can watch you. They're live on Facebook if you want.
I'm gonna tag her now.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir. I'm not sure if I know how to do that.
Okay,
but we'll figure it out.
But we
yes,
are
sir.
broadcasting live Facebook Live. My page, People Before Politics page, Damon got it, and it's going to probably be everywhere else.
Yes,
For
sir.
the new people, that's AJ Woodson when he says his page.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you.
For politics is always getting
Coming from the 914. Let me put that.
Yes,
Shout out
yes.
to my man shirt. New company out.
All right.
They're
Yes,
about to
sir.
do some Black Westchester shirts for us. But go ahead, Nichelle.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Brother AJ and Damon Jones, and certainly my sister Brenda Crump, who I have the pleasure of seeing on Saturdays when I can make it out, because she's always at the Mount Vernon Mile doing her thing, coming out on Saturday mornings at 7 o'clock. I haven't been as disciplined as she's been, but it's good to see all three of you today, tonight.
I haven't been disciplined at all. I kept saying I'm coming.
Gonna
That's
come.
all I've been telling you.
It's a tough one. But Nichelle Johnson here. Let me say firstly that September 13th happens to be my mother's birthday. I
Ah.
lost my mother back in 2005, so it's a significant day for me.
Absolutely.
It happens to be my password on a lot of different things, and I hope that's prophetic in terms of God keeping me where He sought fit to put me in the first place. I've been at the city court now for about 5 months. I think I've been doing a wonderful job of treating people with fairness and compassion and equality, and that's every person that's come before me, including the attorneys, the court officers, just everybody that I interact with. I've been an attorney, as everyone knows, for more than 20 years, various practice throughout the tenure of my practicing law. I've seen judges in courtrooms from city courts to state courts to Supreme Court to appellate divisions to the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. The only court higher than the Second Circuit Court of Appeals is the Supreme Court. I've never argued there, but I've certainly been at the Second Circuit Court of Appeals on at least 3 occasions. I've practiced law that's run the gamut from regular traffic violations, small-time criminal offenses, up to major civil practice, into federal practice, 1983 litigation, injuries, personal injuries, slip and falls, and all of those types of things. Family law. For a lot of time, I spent a lot of time with Bruce Bozeman in the law firm of Bozeman and Trott, doing a lot of family law, landlord-tenant, and some criminal defense. And I went on to the city of Mount Vernon, where I worked as a corporation counsel or in the corporation counsel's office for more than 13 years. That background has taken me to so many different courtrooms and exposure to so many different types of judges and different types of cases. I have this distinction of being a published attorney. I published an article on police high-speed chases in a municipal lawyer back in 1997, I guess it is. I don't quite recall the year. But I also have a number of decisions that are in the Second Department, Appellate Division, but also the Second Circuit, where I'm a published attorney in that I won a lot of motions that I wrote. You know, it's one thing to go to trial, but if you're a gifted attorney and you know how to write, sometimes you don't even get to the trial because your writing gets you out before you get to the trial. And I submit to you that that's good lawyering as well. I mean, everyone can come into a courtroom and razzle-dazzle on their feet, but being able to write and create law that other lawyers are going to use and cite when they're defending cases going on is a significant accomplishment that I'd like to say that I have. Certainly if one were to look up on LexisNexis or Westlaw and look up cases authored by Nichelle Johnson, cases that I've won, there's a significant amount of cases that I've put into the case law that people are using, that other attorneys can use.
Now, Judge Johnson, let me explain to the people that's listening what is important of case law. See, because a lot of people don't understand what case law is. So, you know, why is it important when you say that you establish case law?
Right.
You know, on a lot of cases. Explain that to the people.
Yes, sir. Well, what happens is in litigation and in the practice of law, there's a writing piece, and people will make what they call motions. And the motions are where you articulate in writing an argument. It's like having a trial, but on paper. And generally, that's what happens before a trial. You try to get out on motions. And the motions are undergirded by the case law that you use. So as you're making your argument on paper as to why the judge should rule in your favor, or judges, if you've been to courts in the appellate division or Second Circuit where it's more than one judge, you have to use case law that's established. Generally, we will always look for case law in our own jurisdiction, but you can use case law in other jurisdictions as well. But it's wonderful to have cases that say, well, we're going to cite you to this case that was done in Mount Vernon, or we're going to cite you to this case done in White Plains. And if you're the author of it, that's where cases and the person or the attorney that won that case, their name is displayed. And you would always cite to that case and cite to the attorney's case that you're using. And so your motions are based upon case law. That's the way you argue on paper. It's got to be cases. And I submit to you, even when you do a trial in person, if there are evidentiary rules and different arguments you make on the floor there, they're undergirded by case law. You have to be able to cite the judge to a case that says this is what this case says.
Right. That's
So
right.
being an attorney that's authored cases or won decisions that people can use when they're making argument is very significant. So I have that in my background, as well as trial skills. I have had a number of trials. Most of my trials occurred in the federal courts, which is a whole different level of courtship as opposed to the city courts and the Supreme Courts. Federal courts are a little more challenging, if you will, just based upon the subject matter and the way in which they run that court system. A little more time consuming, a little more complex, and that's really where I did a lot of my practice. But certainly the judge in the city court has to have more than just experience to me in terms of legal work. City court or judgeships require a person who's fair-minded, compassionate, and just. It's really a disposition that you should be able to feel when you speak to the person. You should be able to feel if you come before them. And it's not something that anybody can articulate in a piece of material. And so how do you gauge whether or not a person could be a good judge? To me, it has a lot to do with their life experiences. You know, you look at the background. Is the person married, a mother? Have they been through things? If they were a boss, how did they treat their employees? If they were an employee, how did they interact with their bosses? What are the bosses saying about the quality of the person that worked for them? What are the people who work for this person saying about the quality of the boss who led them? And then what are the people who you've represented as their attorney said about your advocacy on their behalf? Were you gentle? Did you understand? Did you take the time? Was there a moment when your clients might have been vulnerable and they looked to you for guidance and you didn't lose your temper, but you maintained the status quo and showed them why, or what was the error of their ways, or what they needed to do to get to the next step? It's a quality that really I would suggest that people have to ask people, did Nichelle work for you? How was she as an employee? Did she work hard? Did she have issues with her time? Or was she a dedicated employee that came in and made you look good in the job? And then anybody that worked for Nichelle, was Nichelle your boss? Well, how was she as a boss? Did she show fairness and compassion when you were working for her? Did she lead by example? Was she a good boss? Did you learn something while you worked for her? And then certainly as an attorney, did she make you feel like, even if you lost the case, did you feel like at least your story was told? And she took the care and the time and the compassion and the fairness to make you feel that your case was going to be heard and do the very best that she could, whether you won or you lost. And I submit to you that in my history of my practice of law and just being a person in general, I have that. Bar none, I believe that people, if they ask anyone that's come in my circumference, that I would hope that they would say that Nichelle Johnson was a damn good advocate, fair and compassionate, and made me feel like I was being taken care of, whether I was her boss, whether I was an employee, or whether I was her client. And I think I have that. And so I believe I'm uniquely qualified to be a judge at this time because I've had the experience and the exposure and the life experiences to show that I can be fair and compassionate. And I want to just add one other thing, beloved. Since I've been on the bench for 5.5 months, I would encourage people to ask somebody, if they've been in my courtroom, how did I treat the people? And that's everybody, the lawyers, court officers, the people. Did they feel that there was fairness and compassion and a certain treatment of people that was civil, that all judges should have and should exert.
Now, you speak a lot on fairness and compassion.
Yes, sir.
As a judge, how do you apply that to the rule of law when making a decision?
And I got to tell you, it's not that difficult when you've practiced law on both sides of the coin. What I found in my experience is that when judges come from a certain practice of law without having been exposed to various types of laws, that they tend to be a little biased. It's just a natural thing. If you're a prosecutor, when you become a judge, you're more prosecutor friendly. I've seen it, federal courts, the courts I've been in. If you're a criminal defense, perhaps you'll be more leaning towards defense because that's all you've done. That's all you've seen. But one of the things that I'm having an easy time with is exerting or having fairness and compassion because I've truly been on different sides of the coin. There's not one side that I favor over another. And so I think that I've had a pretty easy time of being fair and just. Some of the difficulty I have is that I tend to engage the actual people who are in court, and when they have attorneys, it's very difficult because they really need to speak through their attorney. But what happens is because I literally look at the person and I communicate with the people, sometimes they want to talk to me directly and not go through their lawyer. And so I have to be very careful not to be so compassionate that I'm looking at them wanting to hear them speak when I know the lawyer's got to speak on their behalf or they can get jammed up. I had that situation and I had to explain. I said, beloved, you can't talk to me. I realize I'm engaging you and I'm talking to you, but your attorney really has to protect your interests because you might say something that could hurt you.
That's right.
So that has been tricky for me, but outside of that, I think I've been doing a pretty good job, and I've had a decent time of being fair and equal because I've been on both sides of the coin, and so that's what I have to say to that, brother.
Let me ask you a quick question. I know I can't equate to what being a judge is like, but I know being a recording artist, there was a image that I had of what the music industry was, and then I got in it and found out there was a whole different thing.
Yes,
so, what was maybe one of the biggest misconceptions maybe that you thought about being a judge that you found out that it's not like that, or what was one of the biggest things you had to learn, from that transformation?
Well, without getting into specifics per se, when you, like anything, when you go into a new job, if you will, there are certain practices that happen by virtue of the fact that the court has been in operation under the leadership of other people, and there are certain things that become regular practice. And when you're a judge, nothing is ever regular because every case stands on its own. And when you're trying to be fair and compassionate to all, it's difficult to go into a system where there are certain ways that they always do things and then you want to rock the boat a little bit. But being a judge, you always have to bring to the bench your own sense of fairness and how you want to handle a case. So the most challenging thing is fitting into how the system has been working and then deviating a little bit because as a judge you should bring your own something to the bench. So that's been a thing that you have to adjust to because the court is used to doing it a certain way, but when you're trying to be fair and impartial and compassionate, it demands that you bring in your own way of doing things, and sometimes that could be upsetting to the status quo, but we have to do our thing.
I think that's what one of the critiques of Nichelle Alexander in her book, The New Jim Crow,
yes, sir,
was that judges, especially black judges, were falling into the order, the system that have oppressed black people. This is what the show is about. So we have to go there sometimes. Oppress black people. So having judges that are thinking on their own and applying the law fairly is what Nichelle Alexander has stressed. That what is needed in our justice system, not just conscious police officers, conscious correction officers, conscious lawyers, but also conscious judges. Unfortunately in New York, judges can't talk about social issues But there are, I mean, there's a judge now that we have on blacks in law enforcement that went after the city council in Little Rock for not upholding the residency of police officers, because he says these black elected officials are enabling racism in the police department because Little Rock is majority black. So if you don't have residency, what happens? So I mean, that's what's needed. We have to look at judges, and that was one of the main critiques in the new Jim Crow. And I like bringing up the new Jim Crow because a lot of white folks love the new Jim Crow, and they have a lot of reading groups and everything. They study the new Jim Crow more than black folks do, and the recommendations that Nichelle Alexander's put forth. It's funny, nobody is quoting Nichelle Alexander now with Hillary Clinton, but they were quoting her, her critique of Hillary Clinton 2 years ago. But now that she's running, nobody wants to talk to Nichelle Alexander anymore, because she's very critical of the Clintons and the laws that they passed that adversely affect the black communities and also created the prison industrial complex. But
Yes,
what Judge Nichelle is talking about is very key, is having judges that will apply the law fairly and justly and outside of the box of the systematic rule of white supremacy. She didn't say it, I'm saying it. Of the systematic, I'm just saying, I'm saying it. But she's applying, fairness, and that's what is needed. I'm saying, Damon Jones, I'm saying, not Judge Johnson, I'm saying that according to Nichelle Alexander, that's what is needed, in the new Jim Crow, and y'all could buy it. Most of y'all listening probably have it on your bookshelf. These are judges that's needed in the system to end the prison industrial complex, to end police brutality, to end police criminality, to end the awful miscarriage of justice of how black people get more time than white people. I mean, this is the conversation. This is the show.
Well, let me get back because she ain't got too much time. So we want to make sure we get her.
But I'm just saying, she's on point.
Mm-hmm.
She's on point. If y'all listen to what I'm saying, she's on point from the bench and doing the right thing for people that she have sworn to uphold the Constitution and the rule of law. So she's on point.
Thank you,
Let
sir.
me ask you something in reference to, and not talk about anything in specific, but with elected officials, the laws of the city, of the land is for everyone.
Brenda, make sure you're speaking to your mic clearly.
Okay, is that loud enough?
There you go, Brenda.
Okay, thank you. So my question is for you, Judge Nichelle, is that do you believe that elected officials are held to a higher standard to abiding by the laws of the land? And if yes, why? If no, why not?
No question they're held to a high standard. I've often said, we don't appreciate elected officials enough because God knows when you become an elected official, you're basically exposing your entire life to be open for criticism about everything. And when you make human error, you're held up and crucified, probably more so if you were not in public practice. So I appreciate elected officials, and we should appreciate that they even go out to seek office to do these things, because at the end of the day, they really give up so much that we all are able to have certain privacies that they're not. Yes, they're held to a higher standard, and it is because they've taken on this responsibility of serving the people, getting paid by the people to serve them, and putting the people first. So they're at a higher standard. And but I have a lot of respect for people that jump into that arena.
Absolutely.
Because the pay is not great, but the sacrifices and what you give up are major.
Yes.
So now everything that you do is like an open book, And whereas you may be able to make a mistake as a regular person, as an elected official, you can't.
Right.
So
I
respect elected officials.
We got a question from Facebook real quick. Give me a mic check. Just talk.
Check.
Okay. Okay. Ken Bright, he asked from Mount Vernon, what is her stance on reasonable bail?
Yeah, I can't answer that.
Former
Yes.
Yeah, I think we need to maybe perhaps Judge Johnson can kind of give us an overview or just let us know by law what questions judges cannot ask. So this way the viewers will kind of get a guide as to what questions to put up.
Any questions.
Yeah,
that's the state, that's the law. She can't. That in all fairness to any judge that come on, it's hard for judges to talk about things because they can't. We're here to try to get to know who the judge is, and
more or less as a person.
Yeah, more or less as a person, and experience.
Yes,
but it's hard for judges to answer these questions, and I think Judge Johnson has taken to the max on her explanation of fairness, justice, and equality, through the law. But I don't think it could go any further than that, because that's the way things are, and if people don't like that, it's up to the people to change the law. What I'm saying?
That's right.
It's up to y'all to change the law.
It's very true. We're very limited, so we can discuss who we are, our background, but outside of that, we really can't say much else. Let me just say also that, for me, being a judge, there's no real stump speech to give anybody. Fairness, compassion, and equality has to be exercised in a courtroom across the board, no matter what station anybody is in, whether it be a youthful person, a senior person, a veteran person. Your fairness and your compassion is for all people, for everyone. In addition to that, a judge controls their courtroom too, so they have management authority over court officers, over the clerks, the law clerks, and so having the ability to have the interpersonal skills to have a team of people work together for the betterment of the people is really also a skill set that a judge should have. You should understand how to communicate with your court officers to get the best out of them. You should understand how to communicate with the law office staff, the clerks. You should understand how to communicate with the lawyers that come into your courtroom. And so having management skills also and interpersonal skills on a supreme level is so important. But outside of that kind of stuff, we really can't talk about much else because our job is just to uphold the laws of the state of New York. And wherever that may lay on how we set bail or whatever we do, I can't answer questions on it, but I can tell you that I will uphold the laws of the state of New York. In fact, I was told by someone, anytime somebody asks you a question like that, tell them you will uphold the laws of the state of New York.
And he just wanted you to know, he said that's very understandable and respect that he wanted you to
yes,
say. So
no question.
yeah. So coming to kind of the close, I wanted to give you at least a chance to how can people get in touch with you? Website, social media, and in addition to that, anything we haven't asked you that you want to get out in your appearance here.
Well, I want to say to everyone, I want to thank everybody for being so gracious and allowing us, for those Mount Vernonites, to inundate you with knocks on doors and material all over the place and signs everywhere. It's part of the process. But one of the things I appreciate about the judgeship is once you become a judge, there are no more politics. Because really, judges shouldn't be politicians. We shouldn't have stump speeches like the traditional city council or somebody else running for mayor, because it's not about that. We're really not supposed to be politicians. In this process, we're politicking because we have to, but once you become a judge, there's no more politics. I encourage everyone to go on my website, which I believe we have my resume. There's a full description. There are relationships that you can see through the people that I've touched. Read the material that you have. Certainly, I know after you read it, you'll throw it away, and we understand that. But I had a mailer. Yes. I had a mailer that went out.
Just tell us your website.
Yes.
Tell the public your website.
Yes, so the website is keepjudgejohnson.com, and you will go on there and you'll be able to see everything and see the support that we have. I know it. But also the resume is there and everything else. And certainly if you have any questions, the races next week, Tuesday, as I said, on my mother's birthday, September 13th. I'm on line 7A. I don't think it's a mistake that I got the number 7. You guys figure out what the significance is, but it's 7. I'm at the end, but God says the last shall be first. And so I'm hoping that you will find fit to support me. I want you to go out and ask somebody what they know about Judge Johnson. Just ask somebody. And if that's the way you want to make your decision, no question, no problem, because I believe that you'll get a resounding, that's my sister, and she was just a wonderful advocate, fair, compassionate, and I'm humble. There's nothing arrogant about Judge Nichelle Johnson in the least bit. I pray every day before I get on the bench, and when I come out, I sit down with the people. When they say all rise, I come out, but I sit down with everyone because I understand I'm truly a servant of the people, and so I don't look down upon them as I'm serving them, as I try to impart fairness and compassion. I want to also say that I am married. Everybody knows my husband, Brother Arthur Muhammad. Not sure if you know him, but that's my husband, 23 years. We've raised 4 beautiful daughters right here in Mount Vernon. And so what is the significance of a husband and children? I'll tell you. One, if you love my husband, we're not that far apart. If he's my husband for 23 years, we share the same ideas, the same compassion for people, the same service. So if you find that in Brother Arthur Muhammad, then you got to find it in his wife, Sister Nichelle. And in terms of the girls, my daughters, I have 4 daughters, 21, 19, 17, and 15. God knows through being a parent and a mother with those girls, I had to exercise fairness, compassion, and equality from the day they were born 21 some odd years ago. And my girls are God-fearing children, raised right in Mount Vernon. 3 are in college, only 1 is home, and she's a junior at Mount Vernon High School. So my girls are born and educated in the city of Mount Vernon. And I think anyone that's come across my children would say that they are wonderfully God-fearing, good children. And so what does that mean? That just means, listen, if I got to pick a judge, I want to know that the judge has had some family or had some children that makes mistakes or that they've had to show some compassion and fairness to. It's just a wonderful skill set that you have to have being a mother and certainly being a wife and dealing with all the things that, the lovely things that children bring into your life. So I'm looking for support on September 13th. I'm going to be, like I said, line 7A. It's not a mistake that I got line 7. And I'm hoping that the people, once you do your inquiries, will find fit to support me on Tuesday, September 13th, and let me stay where I've been for the last 5 months doing what God has planned for me, and that's serving the people with fairness, compassion, and equality.
Well, we definitely want to thank you for coming in. A lot of judges have not come in, so you know what I'm saying. A lot of judges are scared to come in because you can, and a lot because you can't answer. The first one was Adrian Armstrong last year, and I just want to say, brother, I want to say something
because they lost last time.
Oh, wait. All right, hold on. I want to say to Brother Arthur. Hold on, I want to say to Brother Arthur so you can hear me. As a father of a daughter. One daughter.
I had to put that in.
I give you a lot of respect. Yo, brother, I got one daughter, dude. One daughter.
That's right.
Beautiful daughter. She'll be 27, God-fearing, beautiful. 4, I give you all the credit in the world, for real. That's all I just want to say.
I'm
as a
up
father
on
of
Judge
one
Nichelle.
daughter.
I have 5 daughters.
You well, but I'm just saying, for a father,
Yeah, I know.
but with a daughter
I bow
to a
down.
father, that's it's like a whole. It changes something than us having a daughter. So
Right.
yeah.
Brenda Crump would tell you, boy, when you're a parent, you got to be flexible.
Yeah.
And, you want your judge to be able to be flexible at times when you're trying to make an argument, say, beloved, please just understand this happened.
That's right.
So, I thank you so much, AJ and Brother Damon Jones, for having me on.
Thank you.
Certainly my
Thank
sister
you for
Brenda
coming.
Crump. Hats off to the sister that has more than I have, but children. But thank you so much for having me on.
Well, like I said, we want to thank you for coming in. Remember, the primary is Tuesday, September 13th, and Judge Nichelle Johnson is row 7A.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
And we'll be back in a hot second.
Oh, okay.